Let's dive into Browns. Final
Whenever
game
we
of the
talk
season.
Browns, though, it's brought to us by our good friends at Tri-C. Browns Talk is sponsored by Cuyahoga Community College. Tri-C supports their students financially, professionally, and personally, and opens the doors of endless possibilities. Tri-C is where the future starts, and guess when it starts? Right now. Classes begin January 17th, 2023.
Have you noticed that McNuggets is nailing Cuyahoga now?
He screwed it up yesterday, though.
Oh, you did?
He did.
Wow.
Have you dated
Sorry
a
to hear
girl
that.
from Cuyahoga County?
He may currently
He
be
doesn't
dating a
date
girl from
girls.
Possibly.
Cuyahoga County.
Maybe not. Maybe.
He goes on dates. I don't know that he dates girls.
Have you done multiples? You've done multiple dates with people? Like, back to back? Like
Second dates.
Second
Yeah,
dates?
a couple second dates.
Okay.
But we have a lot to talk to. We could have a whole date overtime.
Mike gets so uncomfortable
He's uptight
when we
about
venture
it.
No,
into
we
his
can do it.
love life.
We have four
Remember
guests
that one
today.
girl came
We
with
have 4 guests today. We cannot.
By the way, real
hilarious.
quick, there's a woman that I know, a friend of my wife, who's single, and I'm like, I wish I had somebody to hook her up with. And I was like, the only single person I know is Mike, and I'm like,
Bull,
I'm not doing that to her.
we need to see pictures. You can't
Yeah,
just
boy,
put it out there.
I need pictures first.
That's messed up. You don't trust Bull taste?
No. Wait,
Wow,
you missed the headline here. The headline was he doesn't want to do that to his wife.
You missed the point.
Wow.
I trust Bull's
Now,
taste
you're
in
too young
pizza.
for her.
Wow, not women.
Older
Hey,
women love
so-
me.
I don't
nothing
know
wrong
what
with
you're doing.
cougars.
Older women
If
love
Bull
me.
said I
She's
got
a guy that's ready for a serious relationship, not
she-
you.
yeah,
Yes, McNuggets is
I'm out.
definitely
I'm
not.
That's saying. That's
McNuggets' idea of a serious relationship is the date lasting more than
third
45
date.
minutes.
Wait a
Third
minute.
date.
You never know. You meet the right one. You know, it could change
That's
everything.
true. That's true.
You gotta lock
When
it.
the
You gotta
Browns
lock it
drafted Nick
down.
Chubb, they just knew.
Yeah, but they knew even before he put cleats on turf,
Yeah.
they knew that they got their guy.
By the way,
And-
before we get to Nick Chubb, real
Yeah.
quick, one other guy we didn't mention in the rundown, who, we've talked a lot. Some people have made the point that Kevin Stefanski doesn't get the best out of the best players. Well, Amari Cooper, with 90 yards, will have the most yards he's ever had in a season. He already has the most touchdowns he's ever had in a season, but one more touchdown, he will have double digits for the first time in his career.
That's pretty impressive.
Amari Cooper is over 1,100 yards on the season.
And he did the majority of that with Jacoby Brissett.
That's right. And he's had 1,100 yards 3 times. He has 1109. His career high is 1189.
Wow.
So I said 90
81
yards.
yards.
He actually-
81 yards.
81 yards, yeah.
Well, good for him.
Bull
And he-
was in his bag on that
I'm
one.
in the bag.
There is
I'm all over
no,
the bag.
there's no question that even though there have been games where he was sort of absent,
Yeah.
there's no question that this was a positive pickup.
Big
for
time.
Browns.
The
No
good
question.
thing is he doing all of this and he ain't even 100% yet. 'cause he
No.
still got
So
that
let's talk
history.
about Nick Chubb. There was a little bit of a debate internally here as to whether or not Nick Chubb could even win the rushing title. He's 160 yards behind Josh Jacobs. And then there was more debate, I think, about what difference does it make. And so we're going to talk about that. He's got 1,448 yards, 12 touchdowns. Been a super season for him. Obviously, he's a Pro Bowler. The question at this point is, they made it a point during the broadcast last week of saying multiple times how important
Which
it
I
was
thought
to
was
Nick Chubb.
weird.
They picked that up in the production meetings.
Yeah.
They're not pulling that out of thin air.
No, but like
Linemen
he was
said,
so far behind Jacobs that I didn't think it was
he
realistic.
was, but as you look at what's going on, Jacobs was dinged against San Francisco, and
Yes.
he hasn't practiced yet this week.
And his coach
Right,
hates
but
him.
that happened after
I'm
the
about to say
game.
his coach hates
I know,
him.
but
Yeah.
it's unless
The
you're
backup look
350
good.
yards down
Yeah.
with 2 games to go, you got to think.
Right.
You never know.
You never know, yeah.
And the other thing too was that this is what jumped out to me in looking at it. He's about 35 carries behind Josh Jacobs. So
Yeah,
the
at
fact
first
that
I
he's
was
only 160 yards behind him
Right.
is very impressive. I believe it is very important, and I'll tell you why, and then I'll open it up to you guys. Number one, there's 2 reasons guys play the game. At least this is what I've always been told by a lot of the greats that I've talked to. They want rings. Ultimately, and this boils down to about 10%, they believe they have a chance to make the Hall of Fame one day.
Yes.
Right.
When you're a Hall of Famer, you become a corporation. You're your own entity, and you can write checks the rest of your life. How many card shows do you want to do a year? How many appearances do you want to do a year? When you have HOF behind your name, you can do that.
Right.
Nick Chubb is no question on a Hall of Fame arc.
Yes.
The one thing he lacks that he doesn't have, that everybody, when it comes time to vote on this sort of thing, will look at was, how many rushing titles did he win? How many times was he the best player at his position? That's why I think it matters. Obviously, in a team
But I don't
it
know
doesn't.
that-
But
I
that's
don't know
it. Hold on, wait
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah,
Before
go.
you say that, if you just because you win a rushing title, that what matters is all pros.
Sure, absolutely. There's
Rushing
how
title
many
doesn't
all-
make you the best
Yeah,
player.
I'll tell
all
you why it
pros
does.
is what he needs.
I got to do a lot of arguments with a gentleman on Twitter. Hall of Fame is in his handle.
Really?
Yeah, and I normally do not engage.
Wow.
But I was so emphatic that he was wrong about this.
Oh man, what did he say? What did he say?
I engaged. He actually makes the case against Clay Matthews being a Hall of Famer. And the argument that he uses against me, appropriately by the way, is that he was never the best linebacker in the game. He played for 18 or 19 seasons, but he was never the best at his position. By the way, I also know
But
a
that's
lot of
stupid.
people
There's
that
guys-
currently vote for Hall of Famers, and they say their criteria.
But that's not-
their
Eli
criteria.
Manning's going to the Hall of Fame.
Eli Manning plays a position where we can look at 5 and say, because it's so hard to say who's the best, we can look at 5 and say, is he among the top 5 that play? Well,
No.
He's going to the Hall of Fame for one very simple reason.
'Cause he beat
He's
Tom.
2-time
But that
Super Bowl
kills that
MVP.
argument.
No, it doesn't,
He's
Bull.
never
It
been
does.
all
It's not,
pro,
they're
though.
not
He was never
mutually
the best.
exclusive. Bull, they're not
He was
mutually
never.
exclusive.
But you said a guy's got to be the best in his.
I don't
for
know
one
about,
season,
I
I
don't
said
know
that.
about
I
that.
said,
But
what-
Eli Manning was never the best player even for one
Yeah,
season.
yeah.
Eli
never.
Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP.
I know, but he never was the
and
best
the
player.
reason, help me out here, McNuggets.
Yeah.
The reason the Giants have 2 Super Bowl rings is plain and simply
He was
Eli
the
Manning.
best player
No.
in 2 separate postseasons. Which
No
is
question.
different than a
Yep.
season.
Now,
I don't
that
know.
is also
I don't
another
know.
criteria.
And the
There are-
rushing
now,
title doesn't make you the best runner.
it gives you a crown. So here's what they do. They look at crowns. How many Pro Bowls is big?
No.
Pro Bowls should be meaningless.
All pros.
All pro, I'm sorry, yeah.
Pro Bowls
Pro Bowls
is,
should be
Time-
meaningless.
don't
how
mean
many
all
anything.
All pros does Nick Chubb have right now?
3.
Does he?
0.
I'm about to say he has
doesn't have any
9.
All
No, wait.
pros.
He's never had a.
He's a
Oh,
4-time
no, I'm
Pro Bowler.
Pro
He's
Bowl.
never
Yeah,
been
this
an
was
That's
All-Pro.
what I said.
Pro
All
Bowl.
pro
Yeah.
is
Now,
what you need.
When you're, and especially the positioning of running back, this is one that's really, really tough for us. Really tough because the average lifespan of a running back is 3.5 seasons. So you definitely have to have longevity. When you look at a guy like Emmitt Smith, guy that did it for a long stretch of time, you're like, oh yeah, he's in. Barry Sanders, another guy, even though he didn't do it nearly as long, he was the best in the game for all that time.
So this is the way I look at it.
Yeah,
So
go
this
ahead.
is the way I look at it. The eye test comes into play. The eye test because the NFL is different because you play different systems, you play different schemes, and you could get hurt. When they put Gale Sayers in after a very short career, it just lets you know, okay, well, there is a way that you can get in the Hall
By
of
the
Fame.
way, Gale is the outlier.
Terrell Davis, TD.
Yeah, but TD played longer than Gale Sayers.
But there's a lot of guys that have led the league in rushing who are not going to the Hall of Fame.
Here's
yeah,
the
I'm about to-
opposite. The opposite is if you look at it, Nick Chubb is better than Curtis Martin. It's just hands
That's
down.
not even close.
Well, yeah, but
but-
Curtis Martin had the longevity.
But the longevity
Was he an all-pro?
Curtis Martin didn't
No.
go to. Curtis Martin led the league in rushing one year.
So Frank
he
Gore,
may have done it more than once.
Frank Gore to me is not a Hall of Famer.
No, I
He's-
agree.
He's third all-time
I don't
rushing.
care.
So here's the thing. That's the
Oh,
great.
for it.
That's the great part about looking at running backs.
Yeah.
Would you guys
it's-
all
it's
agree
mixed
that Nick Chubb
baskets.
is on a Hall of Fame arc right now?
Yes.
Yes.
No
but
question.
But he needs some all
So
pros.
here's the
and
one
he
thing
needs-
that worries me
Bowl.
about
He
Nick
shouldn't
Chubb.
need any of those things.
Yes, he.
It's stupid.
No, because
It's
you.
stupid, but that's the way it is.
It would
I
water
agree with
it-
you. It is
No,
stupid.
You should lose your vote if you're picking guys for that reason.
Well,
There's
see, this is-
maybe all pro.
it's very
Pro Bowl
interesting.
should be completely meaningless.
They are.
Pro
They
Bowl
are.
should be meaningless.
Yeah,
but
no,
it's,
they are. They don't look at
even
that.
dumber is judging guys based on all-star games in baseball because that's only for half a season.
So,
but
you either have longevity,
Yeah.
either you was just crazy talented like Barry Sanders, you ran for 2,000 yards, did you break a record for touchdowns like LaDainian Tomlinson, did you get 1,000 on the ground and 1,000 in the air like Marshall Faulk? There's different things that you can look at, but you do have to have one. You got to have one thing that you can say, I hang my hat on, and I was the best at this.
And G. Bush, you just mentioned Curtis Martin. Just looking at the numbers, he led the league in rushing in 2004 and 3 All-Pros.
see?
he's not a Hall of Famer.
And that's
is he?
the thing.
No,
Because I had it.
see, I disagree. I think Curtis Martin is a Hall of Famer, and I think
argue-
he checks a lot of the boxes.
See, I don't-
First,
I-
longevity.
To
and,
me, longevity should only matter if it's great longevity.
I agree
not
with that.
Good
Well,
longevity.
I
here's
agree
why-
with that.
Yeah, now here's why I'll tell you that matters. At that position, when the college ranks are churning out 22-year-old stallions every year, the fact that at 37 years old,
that's
you
crazy.
can still play at a high level at the position,
And they give you
which
the ball.
requires maybe the most athleticism, strength, and dexterity.
And some coaches will get rid of you 2 years too
Oh,
early.
absolutely.
That's
They
just
would
like, I ain't
rather
got
do
time for that.
that
Better
than
a year
hold on to you too long.
Yeah, a year early.
And Curtis
than a year
Martin's
late.
career numbers are better than I thought.
Listen, Curtis Martin, I think
Martin
is
was
he's
terrible.
He is in the Hall of Fame, Curtis Martin. I don't know why I didn't
No,
think he was.
Curtis
and
my
if I'm
favorite
not
Martin.
mistaken, isn't he top 5 in the all-time rushing list? He
Yeah.
might be like 3rd in yards.
I think he.
Give me 1 sec.
I think he's 6th now, 5th or 6th.
Anyways, I talk about the thing about Hall of Fame is that obviously I talk to Sherm about this all the time. We go back and forth on players because obviously he wants to get into the Hall of Fame and I
is a Hall of Famer,
Matter
by
of
the
fact, I just asked him about this the other day. I just texted him like maybe 3 days ago. I said, when you look back on your career, which one of them bothers you the most that you're upset about? Losing that Super Bowl in Seattle, or not getting Defensive Player of the Year? And he said Defensive Player of the Year.
And why?
Because
It
when
rubber
you, when,
stamps
when
into
you
the Hall of
yes,
Fame.
when you go to the Hall of Fame, they look at your All Pros, they look at Player of the Year, they look at all decade teams, they
right.
look at stuff like that. If you don't have
Those things are really dumb, especially for defensive
But
players
it's an
and
individual
offensive
award.
linemen.
that's what I'm saying.
It's an individual award.
Like judging defensive players and offensive linemen is really like if you're judging that based on all pros, not all pros, but Pro Bowls or
It's
like some
not.
of these
It's not
things
the
are so-
pro. It's
Pro
not the
Bowls
Pro
are
Bowl. Pro Bowls
completely
because
irrelevant.
that's
Oh,
politics.
there's guys who pay attention.
All
Yeah, but
pros
not the
means
Hall of
that
Fame
you were
voters.
the best 1 or 2 person at your position in the NFL, recognized by everybody.
If you're judging by like most interceptions,
I don't
that's-
care
that's
nothing
not-
because you could get into the Pro Bowl and be the
Bull
fourth
makes a
alternate.
point. For some positions, it's difficult to have a metric that
It is.
clearly defines greatness.
Right.
But not at running back. At running back, maybe as much as any other position, quarterback and wide receiver are obviously among them.
But what's
you have a
greatness?
tangible. Well, the measure of greatness is if you ever lead the league in rushing. That is hands down. And it's not even debatable. Like Defensive Player of the Year, that's debatable. What do you value more, an edge rusher or a safety?
Jay,
So,
I don't
but at
think
running back, it's apples versus apples.
I don't think leading the league in rushing 1 year makes you great.
It doesn't, but it's a crown.
I'm about to say it's just a
It's
feather in the
crown.
cap.
It's a feather
Right,
in
but
the
there's a
cap.
lot
Feather
of
in
guys
the
who have
cap.
won the rushing title who are not going to
so-
step
so
in
Well, let me ask you
Hall
this.
of Fame. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, and I even hate doing this because I don't like to think about injuries. You're the same way when we were talking about
Yeah.
quarterback this year. If his career were to end today, Nick Chubb is not
Going to the Hall of Fame.
a lock
No,
to
but
the Hall
who
of
would?
Fame.
He wouldn't.
But
he wouldn't go.
because of the position he plays,
Yeah.
and because of the severity of injuries and the swiftness at which they get old and injured and out of the game, if you're able to, whatever you can assemble in the years that you play, all of that is cachet when it comes time for voters to look
It's
at.
like chips. It's like, okay.
It is
I
like chips.
understand what
It's
you're
like
saying.
chips.
I would say-
I'm saying what I would do if I were a voter. I'd actually use my brain instead of being slaves to
Numbers.
generally irrelevant
Analytics.
numbers. Here's some guys.
I see what you did right there.
Don't let analytics get in the way.
Here's some guys. Here's some
Well
guys
played,
that have
Tyvus.
led the league in rushing. Josh Jacobs this year is probably going to win. He's obviously nowhere close to a Hall of Famer.
Okay.
Kareem Hunt nowhere close to a Hall of Famer. DeMarco Murray nowhere close to a Hall of Famer.
No.
Maurice Jones-Drew.
No.
1 year.
Maurice Jones-Drew, Chris Johnson,
MJD
Arian
should
Foster.
get in.
Bull.
Those guys are not going to the Hall of Fame.
Arian
None of those
Foster
guys.
was nice.
Here's the difference. All of those players, when they were playing, we forget. Maurice Jones-Drew
Was that deal.
The dude.
He was that
He
deal.
was that guy.
I never thought he was the best guy in the league. The other
No,
guys at
Maurice
time
Jones-Drew
were.
was a dual threat back. If you're a fantasy guy, so you'll remember this.
Chris Johnson was
MJD
crazy.
was Chris Johnson was
Chris
nuts.
Johnson was great for a short period of time. Yeah.
You just
CJ
made my
2K.
point for me.
But not-
the problem with this position is, and this is what I said. Jonathan Taylor was the number one. Everybody wanted him, and
And
I
you
sat
said
in
no.
this chair
You
and I
said
go,
you
"Let
would
me
not."
tell you something about Jonathan Taylor. If you take him number one, thinking he's going to repeat what he did last year,
Austin
you're
Eckler.
making a grave mistake.
I would have took Austin Eckler.
Because it's more difficult to repeat greatness at that position because that is the skill position more than any other that washes itself out every
Well, let me
couple
say,
of
let me
years.
say this to talk about the Russian title. Do I think they should go for it? Absolutely, you should go for it. However, with the steel curtain, I don't think it will happen. But I will say the only example that I have is actually when I was in San Fran. George Kittle was about to break the record. I think Travis Kelce had already broke the record. We played after them, and Kittle had a chance.
Was this the record for most yards by a tight end in the season?
And we was.
That's another.
We was what 5 or 4, whatever the heck we was.
We were trying to get him the record.
No way we was going to the playoff. They kept him in the game. LA had already put the backups in. They kept Kittle in the game and kept force-feeding him the ball because they wanted him to get that record.
By the way, let me ask you this, guys. Do you think Ezekiel Elliott's a Hall of Famer?
Yes,
I do.
First ballot.
Now, I don't know about first ballot.
By the way,
ballot.
By the way, if he retired today, no chance he gets in.
First ballot.
No, I think he needs to play more. I think he needs to play more. By the way,
how many seasons?
Everybody was kicking dirt on Zeke.
Didn't Zeke win the rushing title like 3 of the first 4 years?
Zeke's having a terrible year.
Zeke's no question.
He's having a terrible year.
He's
having a
He
terrible
won the
year.
rushing title 3 of the first 4 years.
No, he won it twice.
Can I get the numbers?
How many times has Ezekiel Elliott had more? Had more than 1,000. One year he had 1,002 yards, which is okay.
It counts.
How many times has he had more? How many times has he had more than 1,002 yards in a season?
I'd say 3.
3. That's not enough.
Okay, but here's the thing. At that position,
He came
that's
in
like
like
7 great years for a
lighter
receiver.
fluid, boy.
Because and you mentioned 2 guys that got in because their careers were
Where's he
short
at now?
because of terrible
Yard.
injuries.
Yep.
Guys will look at that. It's the outlier. You know, it doesn't mean that if
82-50
you're great for 3
Jersey.
years and get injured, you're going
But
in.
if Zeke's career continues to go downhill, which it has been the last
It
couple
will.
of years,
He's a running back.
This season, how many yards he got?
12.
He got 1,200.
he's been
this
terrible
year?
this
12
year.
yards.
He's got a lot of touchdowns.
no.
They give it to him at the goal line.
I still see Zeke still has moments. I watched him last
He has
week.
866 yards.
Okay.
So he's not even going to get 1,000
So-
yards.
so-
It's not outside the realm of
One-
possibility, but it's unlikely he'll do it.
One thing that we have not talked about, I always on this show talk about the human nature of things, right?
hate him.
I always talk about the human nature of things. When you look at people and the way they talk about Nick Chubb, please believe the way he plays the game, the way he carries himself, will give him any benefit of the doubt.
1,000%.
When they write his
Do you
own,
think Nick Chubb personally cares about winning the rushing title?
I do.
Yes.
I do. He's human.
does?
He's
If
human.
you this close, yes.
Bull.
Because it's never guaranteed you might get
Bull,
this chance again.
we in TV we don't have that
Yes.
that award for the best personality. I mean, there's Emmys, but everybody knows what that is.
That's like-
what I would say to you, Bull, is if there was an award for best Cleveland radio show talk show host,
I'd want to win it every year.
of course you
Because
would.
I was
tell
the
you
best
right
goddamn radio talk show host. in
And
this
what do you think Nick Chubb thinks?
I'm gonna
He
tell
doesn't
you,
say that.
I'm gonna
but
tell you right now. If I was one interception away from breaking the single season record,
Yeah.
I'm going out there.
You're squatting on every route.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest. Don't put me in man. I'm playing zone. I'm playing off, and I'm playing like Marcus Peters. I'm reading the quarterback, and I'm going.
We doing Tyvus like this.
That's fine. I'm going.
I was
I'm
gonna
going.
say, to your
I'm
point,
going for it.
to your point, Bull, I think I do think he cares. I do.
Yes, he cares.
But I will
it's
say
human
this.
nature to care.
Of all of the modern day NFL superstars, of which he is one, he may care less than all of the others.
That's the way it feels.
It does feel that
seems
way.
that way.
I
We
mean,
don't know that.
The other guys
He
outwardly.
cares.
Here,
You got
I
three.
bet Myles Garrett.
You
Myles
got
Garrett
three.
talks about wanting to win Defensive
Yeah.
Player
You
of
got
the Year.
three
award.
guys on your team
Which
that
he won't win.
could go to the Hall of Fame: Chubb, Batonio, and Myles Garrett.
I think they're all 3 on Hall of Fame arcs, and I think
Denzel-
all 3 are
Denzel
closer to
Ward.
getting there than not.
No, he's not on
No.
Hall of Fame.
Denzel.
No.
Nah, bro. Way to play better.
You been
but
watching this year, bro?
Did you watch him last game?
I did.
like-
By the way,
That's what's so frustrating to me. He can
I
still
know.
be that guy.
Well,
that
that's
he wants to be.
that's the whole team.
if Zeke retires today, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, he's not.
No.
He has to bounce back.
No,
and
I think he's got to do it for a little bit longer.